of minutes and let some people hop on. I'm not going to use the mic tonight because I'm really just not feeling like it, but I am feeling like telling a story time. So that we are going to do. And for whatever reason, it's not letting me comment. I wanted to comment my Cash App in this because a few people wanted to support me this week. It's MorganShay33, but if one of my moderators could comment my Cash App for me, I will pin it. Hi, Summer. If you could Cash App, if you could comment my Cash App, MorganShay33 in the comments. It won't let me comment for some reason, but if you'll comment that, I'll pin it to the top of the comments so that, you know, it's up there for everybody who wanted to support the channel this week. Just to update you guys, Chris's grandmother did pass away this morning at 6 a.m. So today we did just spend the day just kind of sitting with one another, but I am about a half a bottle of rosé in, and when I'm in like a not bad mood, but weird mood, which if you guys caught the live from yesterday, I'm going through it. Like, I've been going through it, especially here on YouTube. I've been trying to find my niche on YouTube for so long, and I thought story times was the thing, and then I uploaded a story time last week. It's got like 30-something views and whatever. So I'm gonna do this live story time. I'm gonna try to have somebody comment my Cash App in the comment section so that I can pin it. If somebody could just write Cash App and then put MorganShay33 so I can pin it, that would be great. So this story time goes back 9 years ago. I am going to tell you guys the time frame, and I am going to use real names, and I'm going to tell you guys why. Because this person was terrible to me. This person was absolutely terrible to me. They literally are still terrible. Thank you, Sama. They're they're definitely not a supporter. We'll say that. They have no reason not to be. Literally, the only thing I did was walk away when I got sober. But literally the entire time that I was using, I let this person continue to run all over me the entire time. Never said anything to her, we never got in a fight or anything. This story that I'm about to tell you is the closest, and you'll understand why. She put me in a very dangerous situation. And this, I'm going to go ahead and say, from the jump, if you are in active addiction, please do not do anything that I'm about to say. Also, this is a trigger warning for drug abuse, drug addiction, specific drug talk, all of the things, and very dangerous things that I did while under the influence. So if any of those things are going to be triggering to you in any way, this is your now sign to click out. So again, this was 9 years ago. So this was almost 3.5 years before I got sober. And I was friends with this girl. A lot of times when you're in your addiction, you typically do have a road dog, whether that be someone you're in a relationship with or a friend. You typically are always with someone. You always buddy up with somebody because you don't want to go through it by yourself. It's a very lonely, lonely time. Also, it is pouring rain here in East Tennessee, so if you hear the rain, I can't stop that, so I'm sorry. So at this time, I was completely and totally homeless. I was living from wherever, like couch to couch, and I had met this girl, Brittany, at a drug dealer's house, and she had invited me to come and live with her. I lived with her for maybe 2 weeks, and then I met Catherine. And obviously, Brittany is a fake name. Catherine is not. Her name is really Catherine. I meet Catherine, and Catherine was very out there from the jump. The first night that I met her, I immediately asked her, like, bitch, what are you on? You're off the chain. Just talking like a million miles a minute. She even proceeded to like clean the drug dealer's kitchen like crazy, crazy. And she was like, oh, I'm on meth. And I was like, oh, okay. And she invited me to come stay at her house. And so I did. When I went to stay at her house, that was the worst decision I could have made. My addiction got really, 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 really bad because she ended up introducing me to the dealer that started to try to sex traffic me and everything. It's fucking crazy. That's a whole other story that we're not going to get into tonight. But this in particular night that I'm going to talk about was the beginning of UT football season. So it was in September at some point, and me and her had been living together for a while, and she would go on full benders where she would do meth like 6 times a day. Now, if you're not familiar with meth, and also she smoked meth. If you're not familiar with meth, basically it keeps you from eating and it keeps you from sleeping. She would be up like 2 weeks at a time. It would be nothing, like fully up. And once you're up that long, not only does the drug start to make you hallucinate, but because of your lack of sleep and food and water, you start to hallucinate. And I would catch her like up in the woods behind her apartment, like spying, thinking that the FBI was on their way, all this crazy shit. And the biggest thing to remember about Catherine is her dad, as far as I know, even to this day, is a 100% enabler. So he pays for her apartment for the year. At the beginning of the year, he will pay for the entire year. He's bought her numerous cars. She still drives the same car that she had at the time I knew her, but he's bought her several. Just completely enables her and gives her a monthly allowance. So every month he pays all of her bills. She doesn't have to worry about them. He also has groceries delivered to her house, so she doesn't have to worry about that. He pays for her phone. So her allowance, strictly, she doesn't buy shampoo, conditioner, toothpaste, nothing. The only thing she buys is meth. That's it. So at the beginning of the month, it would always be fucking terrible. And I remember by the time that football season had like actually started, she had already blew through all of her money. And football season is like mid-September. So this was fucked. Completely broke. She had spent all of her fucking money. And when she would run out of money, she would then sleep for like 2.5 weeks straight. She might get up on like the 10th day and eat something, but she would go right back to bed. And when she would wake up, it would be right back off to the races. So the last day that she had used, I had told her that I was going for my dealer, which that's a whole separate story. I will explain all of that at another time. And that I would be gone when she woke up. I said, I'm sure you're going to be asleep when I leave, so I'm just letting you know that I'll be gone. She says, okay. She does her thing, goes to bed, and I think it was like the 2nd or 3rd day that she was asleep, I left. And I even went into her room that day and like kind of nudged her, and I said, Catherine, I'm leaving, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, okay. I get back, she and I get into this huge argument because she claimed that I didn't tell her that I was leaving and what if she had died and all this, that, and the third. We get in this huge argument, and so she decides that she's going to kick me out of her house because of that. So I left, and this is when I got in a really shitty / dangerous situation with the drug dealer. Very bad, not good. And she drove to come pick me up, this one in particular night. And when she got there to get me, I knew that she was spun out. The entire way driving back, she's like holding the steering wheel and like she keeps looking at me kind of weird. She also made me pull my shirt completely up and show her that I wasn't wired. I could tell she had been up for a minute. This wasn't going to be good. So, and keep in mind, we were in another state. So we had a long drive back. So I asked her, can I please drive? Because if you drive, this is going to be a really, really bad situation, and I don't want to do that. She says no. I'm like, great, we're definitely going to get pulled over. This is going to happen 1,000%. I know. Sure enough, we get pulled over. And we just so happened to get pulled over in Tennessee. So, and in the city that we were in, just so happened to be the city that my nanny, she knew people, basically, and they knew who I was. So when they ran our names, they asked me, why are you running with this girl? Because she had a rap sheet a mile long. Knock on wood, I had nothing then and have nothing now. So they pull me out of the car. She's still in the driver's seat, and they're trying to calm her down because she is panicking, thinking that I've called the police and I did this. And she's not understanding it's because she was going 40 miles an hour on an interstate, that's 65. She's not comprehending this because she's so spun out. So they pull me out of the car and they're like, why are you running with her? Like, this is not the kind of company you need to keep, blah, blah, blah. She's going to jail. She's got a warrant for her arrest, which I had no clue about. She's got a warrant for her arrest, so we are going to have to, you're going to have to find you another ride home. I'm like, great. I'm literally 45 minutes away from where I live, like where I'm from. My family had already cut me off at this point. Like, there was nobody, who could I call? I couldn't call nobody. And basically, I knew Catherine's mother. So I called Catherine's mother and I told her the situation. And she was like, oh, well, I knew this was just going to be a matter of time. And I was like, okay, well, can you come pick me up? She tells me no. And apparently Catherine had already called her as well and told her that I called the police. Now her mom thinks that I actually called the police in front of her. It's this whole situation. All of a sudden, you guys, they are asking Catherine to cut off the car. The car was still running. Also, keep in mind, this is small town police in small town Tennessee. Y'all, this bitch takes off. Fully takes off, almost runs over a police officer while I'm standing there outside of the car talking to the police officer. My purse and everything is inside of the car. The only thing the officer had was my ID to run my name, my driver's license. So one of the officers takes off to go chase her, and I'm now standing here with this other police officer. And he's saying, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, why are you running with her? And I said, she's just messed up right now. Like, she thinks that I called you guys. She's not understanding that all of this is because she was going so slow on the internet. She doesn't understand that. And not to mention, like, there was so much drugs she had in that car. She had so much meth in that car that she knew, like, if they pulled her out of the car and searched it, that they were going to find all that stuff. But she was right in the fact that she was like, it's my right. If you don't have a warrant, I don't have to let you search shit. And so the officer, now that she's driven off and acted like a maniac, it's probable cause, they can do it. So I end up hearing, like, on his thing or whatever, because that officer was literally telling me that I was going to have to walk. Y'all, if you are familiar with East Tennessee at all, we were at the Sweetwater exit. For me to walk to Halls, Tennessee, y'all, that would have taken me forever. And that's even if someone would have let me stay in Halls, which at this particular time, me and Chris weren't on speaking terms at all. And he was the only person that I had running through my mind, like, just call Chris, just call Chris, just call Chris. Anyways, they end up catching her. She's going to jail. I get my purse back. And you guys, they search her car. They find all of this shit. They end up letting me go. I call Chris and I walk off the Sweetwater exit. There's literally no service. And I think I had like 16 minutes left on the little government phone that I had at the time. And I call Chris and I'm like, Chris, I need you to come get me. Like, this situation just happened. And he hung up on me. And then maybe 4 minutes later, he's like, all right, I'm passing Turkey Creek. I'm like, how the fuck are you already passing Turkey Creek? And he was like, well, I was on Broadway when you called, but I'm coming. Just stay where you are. And keep in mind also that this was like at 11:30 at night. So all of the places were closed. There were like 3 gas stations off the Sweetwater exit. They were all closed. There was nothing opened. So I'm literally just sitting outside of a gas station during September. It's hot as hell, muggy as hell. It had rained the day before, waiting for Chris to come pick me up. And Chris comes and picks me up. Okay. Fast forward, I end up doing exactly what he told me not to do and going back to Catherine's house. And when I get back to Catherine's house, when she gets out of jail, she ends up working with the drug dealer because she honestly believed, she had told herself in her head that I had called the police on her. So she ends up working with this drug dealer to get me sex trafficked. Basically, he asked me to do what I had been doing for him for months, which, if you're unfamiliar with my story, I had driven for him to Detroit. And basically, he had me pull in this gas station and pop the trunk, Someone would walk up to the trunk, put something in it, and shut the trunk, and I would drive back to Tennessee. And he said because I was a pretty little white girl is the reason why I got away with it, and nobody questioned anything. So he told me, if you want drugs in Knoxville, you're going to continue to do this for me, or you're not going to get any drugs. And I was an addict, so of course I did it. So he asked me to do this for him. And keep in mind, this dealer kept me more than comfortable with drugs. Like, it was actually a really bad thing. Like, I was more than comfortable with my drug. I had plenty. So he calls me and tells me that he's going to have me drive to Detroit for him. He says it's the same thing that you always do. So I had my guard down. I wasn't paying attention. I pulled into, this is like the beginning to my sex trafficking story. So be sure to pay attention because my next story time is going to be going into detail on this. But I pull into a gas station in Detroit. I pop my trunk. I didn't have my doors locked. I didn't have my seatbelt on. I had nothing to defend myself. I had just gotten high before I pulled off the exit. I would pull off at rest areas, go in, do my drugs, come back to the car, and then I would go and deliver the drugs. Because sometimes I would have to wait like 45 minutes to an hour for somebody to come and put the whatever it was, and it was drugs, obviously, I think, allegedly, hypothetically, for entertainment purposes only, to protect myself. Put whatever in the trunk, slam the trunk, and then I would leave. This time was different. Almost immediately to me pulling up to the parking lot, the trunk is already popped, and I hear somebody open the trunk, but it's so dark, and where the gas station was lighted in front of me, I couldn't hardly see what was going on behind me. I see the guy close the trunk, but I feel like it almost felt like somebody crawled in the trunk. But I'm just like, whatever. Maybe it's just a lot of money or something. Maybe it's just a super heavy suitcase. I don't know. So I head back, and he would always get me a hotel 2 hours away from Detroit. So after I drove to Detroit and do that, I would have to drive another 2 hours back home, stop, sleep, get up the next morning, and come back. I stop at the hotel. I open the trunk to get the bag out because obviously he made me take it inside the hotel room with me. And there is a man in the trunk holding a gun to me and telling me that if I make a sound, he's going to blow my brains out. Okay? So I'm saying, please be careful, guys. Please, if you are in your active addiction and somebody has you do this, it's not worth it. Please do not do this. Do not make runs for nobody. Do not do anybody any favors in the drug world. The drug world is so dangerous, but that's what happens when you dance with the devil, so to speak. So at this point, I'm in a hotel parking lot, two hours outside of Detroit. There's nobody else in the parking lot. I'm parked in the very back because that's where he always told me to park. And there is a man in my trunk pointing a gun at me. Also, keep in mind, I have a felony worth 20 years worth of drugs on me, okay? So I do exactly what he says. I go inside of the hotel room, and he tells me that there's going to be a man show up in 15 minutes, and I'm going to have sex with him. And if I don't have sex with that man, then he's going to kill me. And so immediately as that guy leaves me in the hotel room, I pick up the phone and call my dealer, and I tell him the situation that's going on, and he says, just do it. You're going to be great at this. And I immediately just started crying because I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like these people's property at this point. Like, they don't even care. Like, guys, when I tell you that it was almost as if I'd come out of my body and I was watching this. It was, when something like that happens to you, like something that you see in movies, when shit like that actually happens to you, you can't fucking fathom it. It's like, it can't be. So I sat on the bed, and sure enough, this man in a suit and tie, like fully, like, looks like he works for a fucking like corporation, has a key to the room, opens the door, and that is how everything started. So if you want to hear the rest of this, it is going to be an extremely graphic story, and I'm going to go into detail of how it worked And I'm going to go into detail of how I eventually started working with the FBI and got all of this stuff stopped. And that's eventually what led to me getting clean and all of that. So if you guys want to hear the rest of this story, you guys are just going to have to wait. But yes, Catherine is the person who helped my dealer make this happen, which I will explain into more depth in the next video of how she actually came into play. I also will say that Catherine has reached out to me to apologize for everything. I have her blocked on every form of social media. I've deleted any type of history that she and I ever had on social media together. Which only thing she ever had in the past was Facebook. I don't know if she has it anymore. I'm asking you guys as my followers to please respect that. Let me tell you guys this story in a safe way and be able to tell my story, because if you guys start and go and acting foolish, I'm going to have to delete this and I will not be able to continue the series. So please, for me, please be kind. Again, I want to thank you guys so much for those of you guys who reached out to myself or Chris on social media today and sent your thoughts and prayers. He's doing as good as you could be in this situation. Obviously, his grandmother was in a lot of pain, so she is not in pain anymore, which is the best thing. But yeah, if you would like to support the channel, my Cash App is in the comments. It's at MorganShay33. If you would like to support me, I would really, really appreciate it. And yeah, until the next time, bye.